to Adapt 1. This week, we interview Christopher Lee Zammit, who has trailblazed the visual effects industry for over 20 years, with some of his best-known work featured in movies and shows such as Top Gun Maverick, Deadpool 2, Transformers, Star Wars, Halo, and much more.
Key stuff I've been working on in the past few years is Top Gun Maverick. I was the asset supervisor for that. I was the visual effects supervisor and art director on Halo series, Season 1, the Halo the TV series. I did concepts and some art direction for Wednesday, namely the Thing character. I was also the visual effects supervisor on The Offer, which is a TV show about the making of The Godfather on Paramount Plus. And I've also been working on a unnamed Tencent video game. I'm working on a very, very high realism fighting game. It's sort of like a fighting adventure game. It's a very, very big property in China. Also, I've been doing some really fun stuff with Invincible. I did a cinematic for Invincible, and now I'm working on my own project. I'm trying to get my own feature film off the ground.
What are the challenges in putting together a feature film like that from your perspective?
Well, I mean, it's sort of new territory for me because obviously I come from a VFX background, but a lot of the same things apply with leadership and soft skills, etc. And it's similar in the same vein that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know who does something. So I'm having a fantastic time learning as I go along how to get all this up and running. I feel for the first time in years that excitement of filmmaking again, and like, trying to get my own vision onto, either streaming or hopefully the theater, just as something that I can say, like, I did that, I made that. And I think that I'm ready. I think that being in VFX has been like 21 years of lead up to this. So like, I'm really excited about my first step into direction.
Follow the link below and discover Christopher Lee Zammit's profile on Adapt 1, the premium invitation-only freelancing platform for creative and technical professionals.
So you've been in the industry for over 20 years now. How has the industry changed from your perspective from 20 years ago? I mean, computers are faster and everything, but what else has changed?
Things that have changed, when I first started, there was only maybe 3,000 VFX artists in the world. Obviously, there's probably 3,000 every semester turned out into the VFX industry. And there might even be like 3,000 studios, whereas before there was a very, very small handful of places you could possibly work and learn. So that's changed in the sort of sense that when we first started, we were treated very special because there wasn't very, very many of us. And, there wasn't a lot of people in the world that knew how to do what you did. So there was a lot of like free t-shirts and free lunches and, very special treatment. Maybe that has gone down a little bit in terms of, as numbers increase across the page, so there's that aspect. Computers are more accessible, so we're working from home now. So the camaraderie might not be the same as it used to be because, you used to go after work and hang out with your friends or just be in the same bullpen with people. And that's just not the same anymore. So there's like Zoom calls, you can only really get, and chats, you can only really sort of like get so much friendship out of people. So I do miss the physical collaboration with people that we don't have as much in this day and age, but who knows what the future brings as we're all sort of like returning back to work after COVID.
Is this something you'll be looking forward to, working in an office?
100%. Yeah, I absolutely. I've been working from home for the past few years now. Usually because I remote into a different province or different city, and it seems to work fine. But nothing beats being around people, sitting in a room with them, talking with them. Just being beside somebody working. And being able to look over at their desk and say, like, wow, that's really inspiring. I want to make sure that I'm doing as good. Like for me, being in ILM in San Francisco, I was in a room full of like absolute legends, people that were in the original model shop from ILM. And you better believe that just looking at their screen excites you in a way that you cannot fathom. And just like, you need to be as good as them so that you don't let the team down. So when you're working from home, you don't have that luxury of looking over at somebody's desk and being inspired by their work, or, you know.
When working at ILM with all those legends, there must have been some aha moments that where you just lit up and you discovered something that was so groundbreaking that it just changed your way of working or the way of your perspective on the production.
Well, the tools there are incredible. Like, their proprietary tools are absolutely some of the most ingenious tools I've ever worked with. But the people also will have great shortcuts, and they've just done this so many times. And the aha moments come from like we're coming every day, and then it's also the most rewarding when somebody comes to your desk and that somebody that you admire says like, "My God, your stuff is incredible. I can't believe how good it is what you're doing." And you're like, "What, me?" Like, so and I think that's missing in the current setup of remote only. Some people I do find could be more productive, but at what cost, right? We're a collaborative medium. I think that we all work best when we're collaborating. If you get distracted at work with other people around, put some headphones on or something. But I still think that a group of people working together make a larger project should stay with each other.
If there was three things you gained from ILM in terms of experience, what would be the top three things that come to mind?
The top three would be I understood what I thought my limits were and exceeded them like 10 times. My desire to put something forward that was important. I guess the best way to explain it is that the things I was working on at ILM were so monolithic in terms of like pop culture. It's like you're doing Megatron for Transformers. You're painting him. You're painting the Death Star. You have to stop and think, if I screw this up, millions of people are going to be upset. So you realize the gravity of the importance these things are to people out there, and you work hard and you pull that in within yourself to make sure that you're doing the best job. There's a real sense of pride, and so I would say the sense of pride in your work is absolutely one of them. Two would be realizing new potential, and three was probably learning how to work with people in a professional, productive way. I think those three things were the biggest takeaway I got from ILM.
Impressive. And you've been talking about mentorship. I mean, you mentioned working with some legends at ILM, and how have they? What have you gained from that mentorship over time?
Well, just some people just sort of like what you do and take you under the wing, and they don't have any ego about it. One of the people that I find to be one of the greatest artists in the world, his name is Martin Murphy, and I worked with him on Tomorrowland, and he was so giving and generous and complimentary about my work. And then you look at his desk and you're just like, your brain just scrambles. And so like the nurturing and the lack of ego that I found from some of my mentors were things that rang true with me. I think that's really important. It's like when you have somebody that's so ginormously talented and then puts their ego absolutely aside to like, do Donald Duck quacks with you and come to your desk and goof around with you and admire your work and give you compliments instead of like being precious about their own work and guarded. I found that most people had a bag of tricks that you were welcome to see and learn from, which made me want to share all of my tricks as well. So I think that's a really, really good personality trait in an artist. And I think that in a collaborative medium, the more people are open and share their wealth, the more wealthy the film will be.
Earlier, you talked about your own experience in mentoring people, and tell us about, without going into too much details, the guy you helped from become, I guess, a nobody to someone that was a highly valued resource where you worked.
It was on LinkedIn. I got, I had already worked on like Transformers and a number of like Star Wars. I'd worked on a number of films, and I felt like I had sufficiently, really had a really like I felt like I had more than my fair share of like good movies and assets to work on. I felt like maybe I was getting a bit greedy, and so like after I got Star Wars, there was a light switch moment where that was like the carrot that was dangling in front of me for so long. And then when I finally got it, it was like, oh, well, now what? Like, it's not as fulfilling getting that carrot as it was chasing it. So I got this moment where I was like, I think it would be better to help other people get their dream project. And because that is where the joy is, like the journey is the joy. So once you have that, it's, it finishes, but like, I think getting close to it is the thrill. So for me, I can help you get something, and once you get it, you're probably going to be done, but I'm going to still feel fulfilled that I got that for you or helped you get that. And, some people really are beautiful artists and have come from very some people have come from very bad families or non-supportive environments where they don't even realize how talented they are. So people will approach me on LinkedIn and ask questions, or can I look at their work or something like that. And one person in particular, it's been a couple, but one person in particular is really, really nice, and he asked me if I'd like look at his stuff and help him along. And I thought, wow, this guy is really, really, really talented. He needs to be working in the industry. So I took him under my wing. There was no money exchanged at all. I just helped him for about 3 years, and he got into the industry, and he's been working on all kinds of stuff, and really happy to see him grow and flourish. And that for me was more rewarding than even working on Star Wars. So
you mentioned at one point some of your colleagues wanted to get rid of him, but you managed to keep him on board and making him thrive.
Oh, this is a different fellow. When I was working on Top Gun, we got this one guy from Think Tank, and his name is Jethro. And Jethro is to this day one of my best friends. So when he got on the show, I was the asset supervisor and oversaw all the planes in the show. And my modeling, somebody in the modeling department was like, you need to get rid of him. He's got to go. And this person was tasked with giving him tasks. And I was like, is it possible that maybe we're just giving him things that are sort of outside of his scope? I said, why don't we give him things that he can achieve, and that will help him grow? And he did. We did that. We gave him stuff. And then before you know it, within a few months, everybody in the company was asking this guy Jethro to work on it by name. They were like, please, can we have Jethro on our project, or this and that? And I bring him anywhere I go, whatever city I'm working in, try to bring him with me because he's that good. And he's gone from junior to CG supervisor in a few short years.
Now we're facing AI and everything. How do you see AI changing the industry right now?
Wow, we have like ZBrush on iPad now.
Yeah.
So AI. So quick anecdote. A farrier. So a farrier is a guy that cleaned hoofs, right, and took care of horses' shoes, like horses' hoofs, and like shoed them. And in the 1900, there was everywhere. They were all over the place. And then cars came about in 1904. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, oh my God, these cars are taking over. And then there was less and less horses and more cars. There was less need for farriers. So what those farriers had to do was either one of two things: get another job or learn how to fix tires. So in this same vein, I think that we have a tool set that's very analogous to what we're doing. And I believe that we can use the AI tools to our advantage to take out some of the legwork. I don't think it should be replacing jobs. I believe that AI should be used ethically. And just remember that the human spirit is what's most important in art and in project, something that you're never going to get out of a machine. So I believe that it should be used as a tool, and it will cut a lot of the legwork. But I don't think it should replace jobs. It will replace some divisions. Like there are just some things that won't be necessary anymore. I noticed that a lot of my matte painting friends have suffered a big loss in sort of like contracts, because people get their hands on these things and then just make their own matte paintings, or they're not great, but it's good enough for them, and therefore they're yeah.
What do you think are the fields that might benefit the most from this technology, and those that might be impacted the most?
So I came from a texture background and modeling, so I know that years ago, as much as like 7 years ago, I was helping ILM automate textures. It just seemed very practical to eliminate a lot of work by and a lot of the legwork in that texturing. So I think that things like surfacing, possibly rigging, modeling, all of these things are going to be definitely concept art, and definitely matte painting are going to be significantly reduced. You're still going to need somebody with an eye to keep watch over that, but the problem is with these new tools, you get less and less people who have that eye specifically, because you need to know how things were made way back when to understand how they're being made now. I've even in the recent memory, as a supervisor, I see a lot of things painted with Adobe Surface. What's it called again?
Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
So I see a lot of things painted by with substance instead of something like Mari.
Mari painter.
Yeah. So and you can tell, and I can tell the difference. I can look at something and say this has been done with Mari, or this has been done with substance, and you're going to see a bit of reduction in that quality again with AI, but for the cost, you're not going to get producers, people paying for it. You're not going to be able to prove to them that one is better over the other. Like they used AI in Alien Romulus. So Alien Romulus used AI for one of their characters in the movie. I won't give any away. But if you've seen the movie, you'll know characters I'm talking about. That character didn't look great. It definitely didn't look better than something that ILM could do, because like ILM worked on some of the other characters in the movie. So I would say it's going to be hard, since that movie made money. It's going to be hard to prove to producers that they're not, that there's no way we're going back now, because the movie's made money. AI is here to stay. It's getting better and better. It's really too hard to tell at this time, because the increments of like improvement happen so quickly, and so like we're getting into a point where 6 months from now we're not going to know what we're dealing with.
So AI will probably drop the production cost. I mean, do you think there will be a rise in production volume?
Well, here's the great thing, is that there's AI is now putting filmmaking into the hands of people that couldn't normally afford it. It's also reducing the amount of people that are going to be able to produce something. So I predict that we'll see a lot more content, a lot more shorter content, with less people working on things, less of the tentpole blockbuster stuff, because I think those are collapsing on themselves. We've seen like this year alone, there's been so many flops that have been like massive, $200 million disasters, people just aren't willing to pay that kind of money to see that kind of stuff anymore. So I think stories, like private stories, are going to be in the hands of other people, and you're going to see a lot of differences. Yeah, I think that you know, I don't know if you've been to the movie theater lately. I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but one of the great things I've seen is because there's less movies happening, and there's like 17 theaters. We're starting to see like Chinese and Indian films in the movie theater, which I think is fantastic. I think that the whole idea of cinema is becoming more global, which is great exposure to something. I've seen a couple of films that I wouldn't normally have seen because they're right there in the theater. I think that there's going to be less and less reason to go to the theater, and maybe even those will be like in a virtual space going forward. There will be virtual platforms for people to watch these films. Less people will be working on them because it's AI. I have a friend who's already making some great stuff on TikTok, and he's getting millions of views in a matter of days. And they're we're not really getting any emotion or story, you know, and it's like it's very limited in getting, especially in getting stuff like to stay consistent. All of these flaws are the things that people are going to be working on, and all those things are the things to watch. Like people will be like, because it's the same thing with like Substance Painter. Years ago, I tested and I said that doesn't support UDIMs, it's useless, I can't use it, right? And then they're like, okay, so they came back and they put UDIMs in it, and then it took over. It became the standard piece of software for texturing. So when somebody figures out what the flaws are of AI filmmaking and corrects them, there's going to be no stopping it. It's going to be a completely new. I give VFX the way it is 2 years, and then before it's completely changed.
Look, I was going to go easy on you, not to hurt your feelings, but I'm only going to get this one chance.
We'd like to thank Christopher Lee Zammit for taking the time to answer our questions about his career, his insights, and his perspective on the past and the future of the visual effects industry. Keep in touch with Adapt One and see how we hope to play a role helping our members adapt to this quickly changing industry.